Hello everyone, good day. If you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. It's another weekend, and today I decided to walk around Taguig City to show you two very different sides of the city. On one side, we have a modern and fast-growing development by Ayala Land called Arca South. We'll check out the newly opened mall and take a quick look at how the area is developing. But just nearby is a completely different environment, the neighborhood of Pinagsama, where you'll see ordinary communities, crowded streets, and people simply trying to get through daily life. It's interesting how two very different realities can exist side by side in the same city. Okay, so let's start our adventure here in Arca South. One of the first things you immediately notice is how clean and organized everything is. The streets are wide, the sidewalks are spacious, and the whole place feels modern and newly built. Walking here is comfortable because of the wide space for pedestrians, and the trees along the road make the area feel more relaxing and refreshing despite the heat. While walking around, one of the security guards told me that filming is not allowed in certain areas, but I think he specifically meant the parts where construction is still ongoing, especially near the condominium buildings, probably for safety and privacy reasons. So instead, let's head straight to the newly opened mall. The mall actually has two separate buildings with a park located right in the center, which gives the place a more open and relaxing atmosphere. This was honestly my first time going inside, and I was genuinely surprised by how beautiful it looked. The design feels modern but also very welcoming at the same time. You can really tell that a lot of thought was put into the architecture and the overall layout of the place. The park has neatly arranged pathways and areas where people can sit down, relax, or simply enjoy the surroundings. The trucks parked around the area are actually small pop-up shops and cafes. They've been turned into stylish coffee shops and food stalls, which adds more character and life to the park. It gives the place a more casual and trendy atmosphere, especially for younger people who just want to hang out, grab a drink, and relax outdoors. There are also seating areas scattered around, making it a nice spot for families, couples, or even people just taking a short break from shopping. As we continue walking around, you can see several condominium buildings in the background. Some are already occupied, while others are still under construction. Looking at these buildings, you also start wondering who exactly will be living here in the future. I'm guessing a lot of the buyers are foreigners, upper middle class professionals, business owners, OFWs, and investors. From what I've seen online, prices for some of these condos can range from around 5 million pesos for a mere 20 square meter studio unit to over 40 million pesos or even higher for two-bedroom and larger luxury units. That's roughly around 83,000 US dollars to 660,000 US dollars. So for many ordinary Filipinos like me, these places are probably far beyond what we can realistically afford. Alright, let's head inside and check out the mall. Since this place is still very new, only a limited number of shops and stalls are currently open. A lot of the spaces are still under construction, so at the moment, the mall actually feels smaller than it probably will in the future once everything is completed. Now, from here on the second floor bridge, you actually get a much better view of the park at the center of the mall. Looking down from above, the whole place looks really beautiful. As we walk around, you can still see spaces covered with construction walls and signboards saying soon to open. So, right now, the atmosphere feels quieter and less crowded compared to older and more established malls around Metro Manila. To be honest, this area of the mall feels a bit more enclosed compared to the larger SM malls. Maybe it's because many of the stalls are still closed or under construction, so it feels narrower. I think once more stores open and the decorations, lights, and displays are completed, the atmosphere here will probably feel much more lively. There's already a children's play area that's open, and you can see families bringing their kids here, especially since it's the weekend. The kids seem to be enjoying the space, while the parents just sit nearby and relax. The time zone is also already open, and as expected, it's one of the livelier parts of the mall right now. You can hear the arcade sounds, people playing basketball games, claw machines, and groups of teenagers just hanging around and having fun. Okay, I think that's enough walking for now. Let's take a quick break, get some refreshment, and just slow down for a bit. Let's try this coffee shop and see what they have.
Ano yun sir? Smart Globe. Smart sir, walang signal. Globe lang.
There aren't many people here right now, so it's actually nice. There are plenty of seats to choose from, and it's quiet enough to just relax. I can even take a few quick selfie shots while drinking, without feeling like I'm bothering anyone.
I salted cream latte. Yep. Thank you, sir.
Looking back, I think starting a YouTube channel is one of the best decisions I've made. I'm already 39, and honestly, I don't really have anyone I consider a close friend, someone I can share stories with or talk to freely. Even though I'm an introverted person, there are still times when you just need someone to listen, to help take the stress off your mind. For me, making these vlogs and uploading them to YouTube really helps. It doesn't matter if the videos only get a few views. What matters most is that I'm able to share my thoughts and experiences. Sometimes it's a bit cringy watching myself in a vlog, but at the same time, there's a sense of pride knowing I actually went out, recorded something, and created it. Okay, that's it here. Let's go to our next stop, Pinagsama. I was planning to take a jeepney to our next stop, so I went to this terminal area near the mall. This place actually just opened recently. It's one of the newer transport hubs in Metro Manila. It serves as a central hub for jeepneys, buses, and tricycles. So instead of waiting along the main road, passengers now gather in one proper terminal area. The setup is still new, but it already makes things a bit more structured compared to the usual roadside loading areas. From here, you can travel to major destinations like BGC, Makati, Alabang, and Pasay. So it's slowly becoming an important connection point for commuters coming from the south, especially for people who need to transfer between different parts of Metro Manila. It's not perfect yet, but it's clearly part of the bigger effort to improve public transport flow in the city. One thing I don't really like about public transport here, especially jeepneys, is that there's no fixed timetable. You basically have to wait until enough passengers arrive before the trip leaves. So if there are only a few people, it can take a long time. Sometimes you're waiting 30 minutes, an hour, or even more just for the vehicle to fill up. And when you're in a hurry, it can be really inconvenient. So I waited for about 30 minutes for a jeepney, but the next one still wasn't fully occupied and wasn't moving yet. That's when I decided to try a tricycle instead. But there was no tricycle going straight to my destination. My options were either to take a special trip, which would probably cost over 100 pesos instead of the regular 15 peso fare and still be a bit uncomfortable, or take two rides with transfers, which would also take more time and effort. In the end, I just decided to book an Angkas rider instead. It was more convenient, faster, and honestly, the easiest option at that point. If I waited for a jeepney or rode a tricycle, the 3 kilometer distance would probably take 30 minutes or even more to reach my destination. Even though the distance is quite short, travel time here in the city can still be unpredictable because of frequent stops to pick up passengers, slow moving traffic, and occasional congestion along the way. Now we are here in Pinagsama, and one thing you immediately notice is the very different atmosphere and vibe compared to the more developed areas we've seen earlier. It feels more crowded, more lively, and honestly, more chaotic in a way. As we walk around, you see people doing all sorts of things. There are vendors almost everywhere, shops and stores lining the streets, and daily life happening right in front of you without much separation between residential and commercial spaces. One of the most noticeable things here is the tangled and chaotic web of wires overhead. A lot of these are actually internet cables, some of which are disconnected and was just left hanging, adding to the messy look of the area. Another thing you quickly realize is the near absence of proper sidewalks. In some areas, the sidewalks are completely taken over by small shops. In others, they are used as storage spaces, while some are even turned into parking areas. Because of this, pedestrians often have no choice but to walk along the road itself. The streets and houses also look older and less maintained. Overall, it's a very different environment, less planned, more organic, and shaped by years of informal growth. But one thing you also notice here is a certain sense of freedom. People can basically do what they want without much restriction because, unlike in the more developed areas where guards are everywhere, here nobody really stops you. That freedom makes life here feel more flexible and unfiltered. But at the same time, that same freedom also leads to a lot of disorder. Things feel unorganized, with little structure in how spaces are used or managed. Alright, let's continue our walk. From here, we'll keep walking through the streets until we reach C5 Road, which is probably just a few hundred meters away from here. Once we get there, we'll look for an overpass that we can use to cross to the other side. Pinagsama is actually quite a large area because it extends all the way to the other side of C5 Road. A lot of people who are not familiar with Taguig may think it's just a small neighborhood, but once you start walking around, you realize how wide and densely populated the area really is. Alright, finally, we are now here on C5 Road, and one thing you immediately notice is that the traffic is noticeably lighter today. Since it's the weekend, the roads are not as congested compared to the usual weekday rush when this area gets packed with cars, buses, motorcycles, and delivery trucks. As we head up this overpass, you can see small vendors set up along the walkway, selling all kinds of things. It's something you commonly see in many parts of Metro Manila, where people try to earn a living anywhere there's heavy foot traffic. This side of Pinagsama has a slightly different feel compared to where we came from earlier. The houses here are more densely packed, and the inner streets are narrower. Okay, from here, I'll just continue walking along this road until I reach the next overpass. I really enjoyed this walk, even though the weather is quite hot today. It's one of the things I like to do to relax and de-stress. Sometimes walking like this feels better than riding a bike because you get to slow down and really observe your surroundings. You notice small details, the people, the streets, the daily life happening around you that you would normally miss when you're moving too fast. But at the same time, the heat can be a bit tiring, which is why I often prefer doing these kinds of walks in the late afternoon when the sun is not as harsh. In the end, simple activities like this can really complete your day. You feel like you've done something meaningful instead of just staying at home doing nothing and then suddenly realizing it's already nighttime, and before you know it, it's Monday again. Alright, we finally reached our destination. If you made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and support, and I hope you enjoyed this walk as much as I did. It's always nice to just go out, explore, and see the city as it is. That's it for today's walk. Cheers!